Hello, this is Steve from Aircraft Specialty with another edition of How We Make It. Today we're going to talk about rigid tube assemblies. The recent addition of a CNC tubing bender has allowed us to design CNC bent tubes in CAD software and then manufacture them. In this video we're going to take a look at two different separate rigid tube assemblies. The first one is going to be an RV14 kit that we've recently released for one of the fuel lines from the Ander fuel valve out to the wing, and the second is going to be a proprietary design by Aircraft Specialty in conjunction with TS Flightlines, and these are for a custom rigid tube at the valve, which then turns into a flex hose assembly for the RV7 and the RV9 aircraft. We're going to start out by taking a look at the page in the RV14 instruction manual where Vans provides two-dimensional drawings for how to create this three-dimensional tube. So you'll notice that there's some dimensions such as the overall length of 20¼ inches and also a couple 90-degree bend dimensions and a 28.3 degree bend dimension. What we do is we take this two-dimensional drawing and we input it into our CAD software, which lets us create a three-dimensional CAD model for this specific part. The next thing that we do is we take our CAD model and we do a verification on it. So our CAD software has a verification tab where we can click on different parts of the model and actually take a three-dimensional measurement of the part and verify that those part dimensions match what the original drawing was supposed to be. The next thing that we do is our computer CAD software takes the verified three-dimensional model and then it creates a two-dimensional layout which provides sort of a template for us for the tubing bender. And what it does is it tells us where to start the bends, where to end the bends, and where to rotate the tubing, how far to rotate it. And then the other thing it does is it is specially calibrated to allow us to compensate for what's called spring back. Anytime you bend a piece of metal, when you stop bending it, it kind of springs back just a little bit. So our dies are specially calibrated prior to doing any of this for our specific tubing bender and for a specific type of tubing as well as a specific wall thickness. And what that lets us do is it lets us know exactly how much they're going to spring back on any given bend. And the software has all that built into it based on calibrations that we've done. So we basically take this two-dimensional flat layout and then we take this over to our bender, insert the tubing, and go ahead and get started with the actual bending process. So what you'll see right here is this is our tubing bender. It's a computerized tubing bender that has digital readouts on all axes. We just made our first bend, and now what we do is we move the tubing using that two-dimensional sheet that we have. We move it to a specified X and Y location, and once we've moved to that specific location, which can be seen on the digital readouts, at that point we go ahead and we clamp the tube back against the die, which is happening right now, and then we make the second bend. And the tubing bender automatically starts and stops at the correct dimensions based on what we've programmed into it. Once that's complete, we're now going to set it up for the third bend, which involves a movement and a rotation. So we rotate the part using the digital readout once again, and then we move the tube down to the proper location. Once we get to the exact location here, we once again clamp it. We then pull the back side that was holding the tube away from it and go ahead and make the final bend. At this point, all that's left to do is release the tubing. Next, we flare the ends, and then at that point we have a completed product ready to ship that will fit perfectly into your airplane. The next tube assembly that we're going to show you is actually a unique assembly. It's a proprietary design by TS Flightlines and Aircraft Specialty, and it is a combination rigid to flex hose assembly. Now what you'll see here is a mock-up that TS Flightlines has in their shop, and we use this mock-up to basically design new components. In this case here, you can see a duplex installation where we were able to fabricate the rigid tube assemblies, make sure that they would all fit properly before we went to the manufacturing process. The first step of manufacturing this part is to put a piece of straight tubing into a slant bed CNC lathe. The first thing that the CNC lathe does is it faces the part, and what that does effectively is ensure a perfectly square end to the tube. The next thing we have to do is we use the lathe to turn down the diameter of the tubing to make it a little narrower so it can accommodate the flex hose that has to slip over it. So that's what it's doing right now. Then it puts a little bit of an angled chamfer onto the end of the tube, and that just makes sure that there's no sharp edges and you have a little bevel in there. And then finally we do a tool swap, and now what it's going to do is it's going to machine a groove, and that groove is going to be for the lock collar that slips over it once we put the flex hose assembly over it. So effectively what we're doing is we're pretty much duplicating a standard hose end assembly, but we're doing it in a very custom rigid tube, which allows us to create this combination rigid tube and flexible hose assembly. After we're done machining the ends, we take the rigid tube over to our CNC bender, and just like in the previous video, we make the appropriate bends. When we're done with that, we flare one end of it and then crimp a flex hose assembly onto the other end of it, and that's how we make our custom RV7 and 9 rigid to combination flex hose assemblies. In partnership, TS Flightlines and Aircraft Specialty are currently working on a bunch of new ideas and designs, both in rigid and flex assemblies. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to also thank our beta testers and those who have given us ideas for new products. We definitely couldn't do it without you. We love being a part of this community and working on new designs. And we hope you enjoyed this video, which gives a little glimpse into how we fabricate some of the products that we bring to market. So thanks again for watching, and we look forward to working with you.